Hi, welcome to Paul's Tackle Reviews. My name's Paul Cresswell. The purpose of this YouTube channel is to give you some real life reviews of tackle that's been out on the bank, used by an unbiased, unsponsored angler, and that's me. As I say with all of my videos, just because an item of tackle works for me doesn't mean it's going to work for you. But I'll try and give you all the information so you can make up your own minds. So today I'm doing my first rod review, and I've kind of steered clear of these because I think it's difficult to do a rod. There's a certain amount of feel and touch that you need when you're looking at a rod. But as I said on my previous video, I'm starting to run out of other stuff to do. So I've had a go at doing a rod review. Later in this you'll see a video of me using the rod, and I've also got some still shots of the action of the rod under various weights and different compressions that I'll take you through later in the video. I think it's difficult to look at rods nowadays, not only because there's so many out there and not every shop stocks everything, but also because stocks of everything are low at the minute. You can't get older stuff, so going in a shop and waggling 3 or 4 rods just difficult to do. So I'll try and give you as much information so you can get a good idea of what this rod is about. This is a Cadence rod. Cadence are only online. I think they maybe go through one tackle shop, but they're an online brand. They do rods, reels, poles, various other things. One of my previous videos looked at the CR10 reel, the 3000 and 4000 size. If you want to have a look at that video. There's a lot of good feedback on Cadence products. People have obviously taken a chance buying it. There is, I think, some kind of, you can send it back if you don't like something within a period of time for a refund and whatever. So you can take a chance and always see whether it works for you. So today we've got the Cadence CR10 match rod, and it's the 13-foot rod, and it's the number 1. So what does the number 1 mean? Well, they have 3 different strengths of rod. Number 1, number 2, number 3. Number 1 is the softer end of the rods. Number 3 is probably your carp and big gear kind of rods. So this is a light silvers float rod. Let me give you some of the vital statistics. Now, it is a 3-piece rod. We all get used to carrying 2-piece rods, but obviously if this was 2-piece, it would be over the length of most holdalls to put it in. So it's a 3-piece rod. No particular problem with that, other than what I will say is when you're packing it away, you need to be more careful if you're carrying it ready made up, because there's bits going one way and then the other. And I would recommend you look at the rod bands that I did in a previous video from Preston's that go on either end with elastic in the middle, and that'll offer a lot more protection, especially for a 3-piece rod. The weight of the rod is around 165 grams. I'll put a picture there. And this has got 16 single leg rings on the float. 16 kind of makes me laugh. My first rod, 1981, had 1 on the bottom, 3 on the middle and 5 on the tip. So things have come on massively. 16, it seems very well done. I don't feel that there's too few or too many. It works for me. The handle is part cork and part Duplon. It will come with plastic on there for those of you that like to leave the plastic on. One of my pet hates, but it's cork, part Duplon. And the distance from the middle of the reel to the butt is 47 centimeters. Now when you see me using the rod, you'll get a better idea of what that means, but you can see there I've got a few centimeters sticking out, and it is useful for casting. I paid 130, I think they're 140 now. That's the price online, including delivery. So when I got this rod and I started to use it, I thought it was a bit odd, and for the first couple of times I thought, I'm not getting on with this, and I realised what the problem was. I've been using 11-foot float rods for the past 20 years, and it's been that long since I've used a 13-foot float rod, and it just takes a bit of getting used to. If that's all you've done in the past, all of a sudden there was more carbon, and it just felt odd in the hand. Once I got past that, I've had no problems with this rod. It's a superb silvers rod, and it has a tippy action, so when you cast in, it's got all the flexes in the tip. When you strike into the fish, the tip gives first. The middle does come into play with better fish, but you'll see with the photos that I'm going to put up later, there is a kind of straightness and then a real tippy action to it. If it had a pure parabolic top to bottom action, it would be uncastable, it would be flopping around. You need that stiffness in the middle section when you cast in, and then it will bend when the bigger fish come into play. It says on the rod a maximum of 6 pound line. I think that's fine. Personally, I wouldn't use more than 4 pound line, and the other day I was fishing as you do, and I caught a 7 pound carp on this rod. I had 4 pound main line. My hook length was an 012 Matrix Horizon to an SFL Preston rod, so a Preston hook, so a fairly light hook. I had no problems. There was a hell of a bend in the rod, but it still had that power in the middle. If you're targeting 6, 5, 6, 4 pound plus carp, if that's your target, this isn't the rod for you. This is a silvers rod that will handle good fish and enable you to get them out. I use the Cadence CR10 3000 reel, so it's a really light reel and it matches up with the rod lovely. I'm not saying you've got to have the same brand, but it's the weight, it's the feel, it's a really nice light rod. As I've said, I've got a video on my channel if you want to look at that. It says on their website you could go down to an 06 hook length, and I think you probably could. I rarely go below 010. I think I wouldn't see the point going really above 012. If I can land a 7 pound carp on 012, then there's no need to go any further. The casting weight, it says, what does it say, 1 to 15 grams. I think 15 grams is stretching it a bit. I think you'd be okay with 10 grams. I fished a 6 gram pellet waggler on here because I didn't take my pellet waggler rod and they were all on the top, and I had a go with this and it was fine, and I caught carp. And yeah, I would have preferred my other rod because I was targeting carp, but this handled them fine. So I'm now going to put up the first video, which is me catching a few small fish on this. You'll see me casting. Now what I will say is there was a lot of trees above and behind me. Thankfully when I was recording I didn't catch the trees, although I did manage to catch them later on. So you can see when I'm casting I'm not bringing it right back and through because I can't, because I'm worried about the vegetation. But I think this will just give you an idea of what the rod's like. I keep looking at the camera because I'm making sure it's working, not for any so that you see lots of my face. So here's the video. So I hope that worked. I hope that gave you some idea of the rod in use and the action. I'm now going to look at putting 3 separate photos up, and I'll introduce each one first. So the first one is the rod, and I've hooked my bait riddle, which weighed around 4 ounces, and I was just pulling it so the bait riddle started coming off the floor. So you can see the kind of bend you get with a 4 ounce weight on. So now I'm going to look at a higher weight, and I hooked a tin of corn that was around 8 ounce. So I'm now going to put the photo up. You'll see that there is more in the tip, and the middle is starting to come into play with the action. And finally, I've gone for a weight around 12 ounce, and this was my meat cutter. So I hooked the meat cutter up, and again pulled just to start lifting it off the ground a little bit. So you can see now there's more action in the rod. It's still that tippiness, but the middle is coming into play. So I hope that worked, and please give me some comments if you think it did or it didn't work, or I could have done it better. That's great. That's all I want to say about this rod. I've really enjoyed using it. It's going back old school. It's not a rod I take out every week with me, but I do fish venues where I'm looking at silverfish and good silvers and small carp, and I'm really happy, and the length, I think, really makes a difference. And with it being 13 foot, you get the line pickup when you strike. It really does work, and it cushions those fish. What's the competition for this rod? Well, the Preston, their 13 foot light rods are only in their Supera range. They're around 175. The Acolytes are around 200. The Map is over 200. I think the Matrix Horizon is around the 200. And then there's the Shimano X5, and that's around 140 quid. What I will say is, in the few shops I've been, I've never seen any of those rods available for me to look at. So it is difficult nowadays buying a rod. I think people do have to buy blind, and I'm very pleased with what I did here. There are sometimes offers on Cadence, and I know they do road shows, and they turn up at some of the big shows, and they give discounts on those days. So you might pick it up even cheaper if you're interested. Plus you might get a chance to have a waggle before you buy. That's it for today. Please leave any comments or questions below. I always try and come back to any questions that people ask. If you want to give me a thumbs up, that's great, helps spur me on a little bit. I'm starting to look at doing rods now, and I'll see what the feedback's like on this one as to whether I do some more. If you want to give me a like, that's great, and if you aren't already, you can subscribe. I've got a lot of videos already on my YouTube channel if you want to go through those and find out about other tackle I've reviewed. And until next time, tight lines.